Tonight I'm going to have a few remarks on three topics. I'm going to say a little bit about an entry plan. I've been engaged since July 1st, truly since before July 1st, in a disciplined entry plan of getting to know Viewpoint School. I'm going to share a little bit about what I've learned about Viewpoint. I'm going to share a little bit more about the parent survey that we conducted in November and December, and then we'll have a few remarks about where we're going as a school from here. But first I want to take you back to my first encounter with Viewpoint, which was actually during the search process. The first time I really fell in love with Viewpoint School. It was my finalist visit, November, a little over a year ago, and it was the end of probably day 2 of a 3-day interview process, and I walked into Fletcher Family Library and encountered a sea of white chairs, all very tightly packed. This was the meeting with the faculty. Teachers who had had a long day of working with students who were tired and maybe a little skeptical or suspicious about who was this fellow and what did he think he could bring to Viewpoint School as the new leader. I had a few remarks about 21st century learning and introduced myself and the work that I'd done. And to get to know Viewpoint a little bit better, I asked the teachers a question that comes from the accreditation process. In the new accreditation process, one of the things schools are asked to do is to provide 10 photographs or images that say something about the culture or community of the school. And I was inspired to ask the teachers, so what are your 10 images? I know you can't pull them out of your pockets on your phones, but perhaps you could describe to me what images capture Viewpoint's culture. And the 10 minutes that followed were just a flow of image after image after image of Viewpoint. Images of students helping one another on the playgrounds from lower school teachers, images from coaches of our athletes and how inspirational they are. And again, the most compelling images were images of younger and older students working together. Younger and older students appearing together in a musical, younger and older students together at homecoming. It told me something about the powerfully felt culture of the school that I had read about so much. And I knew that this was a very special place. The teachers, this is how they looked on the first day of school this year, by the way, as we gathered at the end of the summer for faculty meetings. They didn't quite cheer like that, but I'll tell you, we knew we had a partnership in place. We started this school year with a convocation, a K-12 convocation gathering all 1,215 of our students, all of our teachers and staff in the Paul Family Athletic Center. It seemed like a good idea to have the seniors led in by a bagpipe as they are led in at graduation. And then as the class of 2016 came in, the kindergartners came in amongst them. And the children in first grade all the way up through the 11th graders, really there were a few tears as the kindergartners came through, very cute. It was the beginning for me of an entry plan of getting to know Viewpoint. And I've had the opportunity with over 100 events in these 7 months to get to know you and to get to know the nearly 5,000 people in this community, from students and faculty to parents and alumni, and then the broader educational community. I started with a faculty survey, have had faculty and parent events at our residence here on the campus, have had a number of events where I could get to know the community, including a wonderful alumni day back in December, and have just had many conversations to listen to what's special about Viewpoint and hear what's important to all of you. And again, the most powerful thing is the culture that accompanies the excellence in academics, arts, and athletics that is Viewpoint. So that's a theme you're going to hear about. It drew me here, and more importantly, it's something that people told me they prize, and they wanted me as the new leader to know about. I also encountered it when I talked to college admission officers who were visiting Viewpoint to get to know our students. I encountered it when I went out and represented Viewpoint at national conferences, as I've done so far. And I even encountered it among our city council as we went before them for the entitlements for our next building project. When we survey the faculty and ask them about the school, that same quality of optimism that John refers to is present in their responses. It was a very quick way for me to get to know what's on the teachers' minds as they think about the future of the school. And there was a word that popped to the top of the list that I promise you, is not at every school in their faculty as they talk about the hopes and dreams for the future. I was so excited to begin work at a school where the faculty, again, love the school. They love the students, and it shows up in the work that they do every day. As an administrative team, we had 3 retreats and additional meetings. More than 24 hours of meetings our senior administrative team had this summer as we began to collaborate and form a team that would lead the school into the future. And under 3 themes, we identified 3 goals for this year. Under the theme of community, to foster K-12 connection, as we saw in that K-12 convocation that has led to many other events since that convocation, from a swim program to something that happened this morning I'll show you a little bit later today. Under the theme of collaboration, we need to plan our enrollment carefully as we're at our enrollment cap of 1,215. And under the theme of creativity, we talked about fostering innovation and inspiring teachers to be creative so that they might inspire students to be creative. Our administrative team read the book Creativity, Inc. as a group read. This is a book by one of the leaders of Pixar who knows something about leading a team of creative professionals, because that's what teachers are. Teachers are like artists, creative professionals that make magic every day in the classroom. The teachers read a book by David and Tom Kelly called Creative Confidence. And this book was presented to teachers as a challenge and an opportunity for them to have creative confidence within their own programs so that students might develop creative confidence. And I'll tell you, teachers have brought to me examples of lessons that they were inspired to create because of this book. So listening to the community, I've learned a great deal about what matters to them. As we look at the current state of the school, it's also worth noting, again, the picture of our enrollment. That school that John Natalenko described of in the low 300s is now at its functional enrollment cap with the city of Calabasas, which means as we look to the future of the school, we must think about how we grow qualitatively. I come to the school as a leader after a decade of building. This is a bit of a level set for families who have been in the school. They're well aware we sit in facilities that have been produced in 3 phases of construction, over 160,000 square feet of beautiful new learning spaces that have been provided, over $65 million in construction that has been made possible, again, through the generosity of almost 2,000 donors. And as John mentioned, the last piece of that is our Field of Dreams that will provide the field on the West Campus so that both ends of the campus and both ends of the learning spectrum from K to 12 have a gym, a pool, and a field for students to play. And that community culture impacts the school in giving as well. It's impressive to me as a new leader that we have achieved over 90% annual fund participation in our parent community in a K-12 school for 4 years running. That's a distinctive accomplishment that speaks to how parents love and support this school. We started with how the faculty love the school. This shows you that parents love the school too. So this led me to want to know more about parents and what they're thinking. So we surveyed parents. There we go. We surveyed parents, not just our VSSA leadership, but I wanted to acknowledge and thank them for their fine leadership of our many parent volunteers. We didn't survey just the VSSA parents, we surveyed the entire parent community, over 1,700 parents with a tremendous response rate, over 600 responses last November and December, with a variety of both multiple choice and open-ended questions. And the biggest takeaway was this, that over 90% of families are satisfied or very satisfied with their child's experience, with amazingly 62% very satisfied, the highest score that they could give. That was very impressive. This was a lot of warm feedback. Certainly in the surveys, we also received cool feedback, and we're just as interested in learning from what families would tell us where we could grow as we are from learning what was going well. We asked about how they would recommend us to friends, and it was very good to see that 3/4 of our families would give us a 9 or a 10 out of 10, saying they would definitely recommend Viewpoint to a friend. As you know, we rely on the word of mouth of our parent community to bring great families like you to Viewpoint, so this was very good news. This, by the way, is something called the Net Promoter Score. You might be familiar with NPS, or Net Promoter Score. The folks in 9 and 10 are your promoters, so that's 75% of our parents in this survey. And the folks on the left of this graph, 1 to 6, are your detractors, and you net them out. And so our NPS, our Net Promoter Score, is a 67. If you look at this kind of work in other industries, anything over a 50 is just stellar. And so it was great to see this. I'll tell you, it is, again, just as important for us to understand what the folks on the left of this graph are thinking, as well as to engage and think about what feedback we're getting from the folks on the right. But thank you for referring us to your others out there who might be great Viewpoint families. We asked how important various things were, and it's no surprise to see that the academic experience pops to the top of the list, and especially the quality of teachers. Families, in fact, couldn't say more strongly that the quality of teachers was the most important thing to them. That's really, again, no surprise, followed immediately by challenging curriculum and small class size. What's distinctive about Viewpoint and defines our culture is that you notice this is interesting. The Character Education and Moral Development program is right behind those core academic strengths as important. And it's also noteworthy that in all of these important areas up here, families were satisfied with a score of 4 or above. So again, lots we can learn, but it was good to see that in these very important areas we were achieving very well. We asked more deeply in individual academic areas, and at the top of this graph are the academic subjects, and again, core strength in all of the major academic areas reported by our parents. They see that they are very satisfied with how well children are advancing in science, and English, and history, and math, in PE, and the arts. And in the skills at the bottom as well, some of those characteristics that we think might define a Viewpoint student: contributing to class discussions, being able to write effectively. Parents are very satisfied. So it's wonderful to see that in those core academic areas. It's noteworthy to me that these 21st century learning skills, taking a leadership role, being creative and innovative, while parents are satisfied, it's interesting to see that that might be an area we watch for the future and look to inspire greater creativity and leadership. And then we asked about non-academic areas. This was a National Association of Independent Schools survey, and it asks about non-academic areas. And this was definitely impressive to me, and so true to Viewpoint's culture and character and mission, that leadership and character development are among the most important non-academic areas for families. Leadership, I believe, is both a core strength of this school and one that will be essential to the school going forward. In families choosing Viewpoint, it's not surprising to see that the academic program is first on the list, but right up there in an almost tie with it is the school's climate, culture, and values, followed by class size and our college placement record as areas that are incredibly important to our parents. We ask if Viewpoint is a welcoming environment for children and their families, and it was wonderful to see that 2/3 of families gave us a strongly agree, and 90% agree or strongly agree, with no one strongly disagreeing the school is welcoming. So that was wonderful. This was something that, of course, is said to new families, but here we can see that in an anonymous survey it's also felt by the ones who are here. And then finally we asked parents about the future. We have over 187 pages of open-ended verbatims that we are analyzing and reading very carefully. I won't go through them tonight, but this does give you a bit of an impressionistic view of what's on parents' minds in this survey as they think about challenges for the next decade. Not terribly surprising that technology pops to the top of the list when our students here at Viewpoint are members of what's called Generation V, for viral. And what characterizes Generation V? Well, they're on an average of 3 screens at once. 70% of them often or always sleep with their phones. 1/3 of them think it's better or it's all right to break up over text or online. So these are the students who are in our classrooms, and parents can see that these are challenges for the future, not just academic challenges, but also social and emotional challenges as we look at the next decade. We asked parents where parents thought we should invest our resources for the future, and it's amazing to see that teachers pops to the top of the list. Not only are teachers most important, they are also where we should be looking to invest resources for the future. This is very good news. Our families are happy with our teachers, and they want us to invest in them, and we are doing that in professional growth and in investing in our teachers and developing them. You'll also see other areas up here: technology, students for certain, sports and facilities, our campus. Some of the sports get a little shout out there too. Baseball pops a little bit there. And then finally, what do you value most about the school that you hope will never change? And again, parents time and again said the qualities, the human qualities that define the Viewpoint experience: the teachers, the students, the culture, the community, the fact that we're a place where children stay a little younger longer, we're a school that is a school of nurturing and values. So you see that the academics is present as well as the culture and the terrific faculty. So again, in our verbatims, a bit of a summary. Notable strengths in the breadth and challenge and quality of the academic program. And time and again, parents had the opportunity to say, you know, my child's happy coming to school, and that's incredibly important. Some of the challenges: probably the most predominant challenge mentioned in the verbatims was the cost of a Viewpoint education, something our finance committee and I are paying close attention to. To the diversity of our students as we go forward. We're now at a time in California where in K-12, the K-12 student population statewide is a majority minority population. So we need to be paying attention to diversity and to technology and innovation. So where are we going from here? Well, first I want to offer a bit of a definition for you, a level set definition of 21st century learning. It's a bit of a cliche or a phrase that you hear a great deal, and I thought I'd just very quickly say, what do we mean when we talk about that? Isn't it redundant? We're in the 21st century after all. It's the best name for this construct, and this particular set of skills comes from Tony Wagner. He's a professor at the Harvard Grad School of Education, and he's written a number of books on 21st century learning, including this book, The Global Achievement Gap, where he defines the 7 survival skills for the 21st century. His way of working is to go out and talk to business leaders, CEOs, to talk to people in the field about what students need to be successful in the future. He doesn't stay in the ivory tower. And you can see these 21st century learning skills: critical thinking, collaboration, agility and adaptability, entrepreneurialism, oral and written communication, accessing and analyzing information, or what's more commonly being called curating information, and curiosity and imagination. Now, some of these skills are not simply 21st century skills. They've been around since, ancient Greece and before. Curiosity and imagination, oral and written communication, critical thinking, problem solving, these are not merely 21st century skills. These have been around. You do notice on his list, however, that some of them tilt more towards the future, that we are living in a paradigm shift in the way that we access information. And so the skills of analyzing information, of taking initiative, of being agile and adaptable, of collaborating and having influence, basically of demonstrating leadership, these skills are truly innovative. And so for a school like Viewpoint that has deep roots in tradition, and traditions that are so important to us, it is important that we lean forward in the future and think about the innovative side of the survival skills as well as the tradition. You see this on the front pages of the newspaper in such things as college admissions. The Harvard, again, is leading a project called Making Caring Common, focusing on social and emotional learning. Here we have the pinnacle of academic success, focusing its college admission process on, again, social and emotional learning and how do we teach children to care. And these debates are playing out in the pages of the New York Times. This week in the Chronicle of Higher Ed, you also see technology played out as the dean of MIT is going to start a university without lecturers, without classrooms, without walls, a nonprofit university, as other disruptive forces are entering our industry. And then in Ed Week, you see the opportunity that is present with technology and education to truly individualize and personalize learning. What happens when big data comes into the classroom? These will be questions that we take up in the future. What does it mean? What are the possibilities that are opened up by digital tools to empower teachers? As I look at Viewpoint, I would say that as we begin a cycle of strategic planning, there are signal areas of excellence that we can point to as strengths on which we can build and grow. And we might think of them in these categories of technology, engineering, and design, putting together science and the arts. We have such distinctive programs in science, engineering, design, and the arts. We have distinctive signal strengths in leadership development, from a public speaking program that begins in kindergarten all the way through other areas. And then we have distinctive signal strengths in our community. So that these are areas that present opportunities for us. This is our robotics team that has placed 3 robots into the state championships, including one that scored more points in an individual competition than were scored ever anywhere in the world. And then these are the future robotics team right here in our innovation space. Yes, they're working with power tools. If you're a parent of an older child, you haven't been to our innovation space, this is the future of technology and education present in our K-5 right now. In public speaking, I continue to be impressed with how we develop leadership skills in students from the very beginning of kindergarten up through the students who tomorrow will be leaving for the North American International Model UN Conference in our upper school, who are headed to Washington, D.C. Those skills that they take with them begin here in our early grades. And that leadership development extends through our service learning programs, when our upper school students engage with local community agencies, when our girls' soccer team adopts this girl who is battling cancer, the girls' soccer team adopted this girl, and she had her last day of chemotherapy recently, and it was very moving as our soccer team and the opposing soccer team made a little tunnel at their game for her to run through to celebrate her last day of chemo. They've adopted her as a bit of encouragement for her battle. And then we see that our programs in athletics and in the arts are just opportunities for students not only to develop areas that they're passionate about, but also to take leadership, as we define leadership as an essential 21st century skill. And I know it's great to pause on our football team, but I'm not intending to do that. There we go. And as we look at social and emotional learning, this is so important for the future of education, as we see in where education is going, when schools are saying that in addition to being academic institutions, we need to be institutions where students develop confidence. And this is an area where we have great strength. Our programs in diversity, these are the students that Viewpoint sent to the NAIS Student Diversity Leadership Conference. They came back from that conference to a program at Vistamar School to share what they learned with others in the LA independent school community. And this was this morning, connecting our community K through 12 under that heading of, again, social and emotional learning, so that students feel a part of something bigger than themselves. We started a new tradition this year in the primary school, and Kathy Edelman and Jane Soper have students in kindergarten, first and second grade ring the bell to start the school day. Well, our 11th graders heard about this, and they said, well, we want to be part of this too. So yesterday, the first group of 11th graders showed up, and so this morning for the second day, we had a couple of juniors showing up to help the girls ring the bell, so that students see that they are, again, part of something bigger than themselves. One of the essential questions I think about as we look at the future, there are signal strengths in Viewpoint that some students accomplish. Some students will write programs that solve the Final Four through the neural networks in AP Computer Science class, or some students will be part of that prize-winning robotics team. Some students will captain a team or will be a lead in a play. I'm also interested in what is that essential Viewpoint promise that all students get, so that we see in these areas of excellence, these will be the planks on which we build a future together at Viewpoint. I'm very fortunate to have a colleague in Bob Bryan, our associate head of school, who's deepening these commitments in how do we make them actual in the life of the school. And so he's working on some of these priorities of developing faculty evaluation so that we have a truly growth-oriented professional development model for our faculty. And we're looking at working collaboratively in an environmental sustainability committee and a diversity task force to think about the future of Viewpoint. So with that, I look forward to taking your questions. Hopefully you get a sense not only of where we are, but also where we might be headed together for Viewpoint. I'll tell you, there's no more exciting time to be working in education than now. It is, can be a confusing time with the children that we have in the school and with the ways that they're learning being so very different from ours. But they need us more than ever. They need the guidance of caring, dedicated teachers who are growth-oriented and committed to them. They need the guidance of parents, and then they need the guidance of this caring and dedicated culture. So that together, Viewpoint is, and it will be, the leader that it is and the leader it's becoming in independent education.